Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 79 of the Unknown Comics podcast. I'm Brandon,
I'm Tanner.
and you can't see us. If you're listening on audio, you couldn't see us anyway. But now, if you're watching on YouTube, you're just seeing a splash screen because we have made the decision to go to audio only for the foreseeable future. Now, that is not to say we won't do any video versions in future, but we're going to reserve those for special events. So, like if we do have a live signing or a special guest, we'll probably break out the cameras and actually we'll probably live stream them.
Yeah.
And then do video, but for the foreseeable future, we're just going to move to audio only because that's where most of our listeners were anyway. And we won't be doing the live version of the podcast, like I said, unless we have a special reason to do so. But like I said, the numbers have kind of showed us that's we're after the fact audio versions where you're mainly listening to us anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just allows us to kind of make our setup a little more comfortable, make this a little bit easier to do.
Got a little tight in here.
Got a little tight in the space that we were in. But like I said, we'll bust it out when we need to. But for the foreseeable future, we're just gonna go audio only, and you're not here for our faces anyway. I mean, I know I'm pretty, but you can go back and see archival footage and get your jollies that way. I probably shouldn't have said that. All right.
At least we're not live.
At least we're not live. Let's go ahead and let's talk about what's happening at Unknown Comics this week. Well, as you can tell, it's just me and Tanner in the booth this week. Chris and Darren are in Charlotte, North Carolina at Heroes Con. And they will be there through Sunday. So we're recording this on Thursday. They'll be there from Friday, June 16th to Sunday, June 18th. So if you are near the Charlotte, North Carolina area, you can go check us out there. We have a couple of guest artists with us this time around. David Nakayama will be at our booth, as will Miko Sawayan.
Mm-hmm.
Friends of the store have done many exclusives between the two of them for us. Many. Anna Jo was going to join us at Heroes Con, but at the time of this recording, it appears she posted on social media that unfortunately she had a car accident and was not going to be able to attend. Which yesterday she had stated that she was getting ready. So I really hope. I'm putting stuff together. I haven't reached out to Chris to find out what happened, or Darren. Or her specifically, and we wish her the best. Hope she's well. I hope she didn't get hurt, and I know it has to be a pretty big deal if she's going to skip out on it, because she definitely, she is all about going to cons and face to face. So we pray the best for her, and hope whatever has transpired is not super major. So anyway, so definitely if you're in the Charlotte area, check us out, Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. On the website, unknowncomicbooks.com, we have a couple of deals going on right now. We have our mystery themed starter sets. So these starter sets, we have quite a few of them. There's I believe there is, let me get this pulled up, there's like 12 different theme starter sets. So these starter sets are mystery bundles of Spider-Man. There's a Spider-Man starter set, Venom, X-Men, Thor. There's a couple of different Spider-Man, X-Men. Oh, I see what it is. Sorry. There are different themes, but then there are also different contents. There are some that are there's just a lot of information on there. There's different price ranges, and it's based on what books are in there. Trade dresses, virgins, stuff like that. So yeah, there's trade dress, virgin, and trade and virgin minimal. So there's three different tiers. There's virgin minimal, there's trade and virgin minimal, and then there's trade only. And so they kind of step down. So like the trade only bundles, you get how many books? It is estimated 120 to 200 comics. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of books. Based on the bundle for 400, that's the trade dress. The trade and Virgin minimal together is 525, and then the big Virgin minimal sets are $700. So anywhere from 120 to 200 comics. I'm assuming it's based on, the value of what they are.
Yeah.
So there's that. So lots of mystery bundles there. We also have going on. We're gearing up for Hellfire Gala 2023. And to do so, we are offering a couple of event bundles to kind of get you caught up. So if you haven't purchased any of David Nakayama's Hellfire Gala magazine covers, we are offering bundles of those. So we have the 21 pack, which is all of 2021 and 2022, which is 21 books. Because we did, I'm trying to remember, and there's some extras. There's some that aren't the actual magazine covers as well. And I'm trying to think if it's all the magazine covers. I'm looking right now because we did 6 one year. Yeah, we did. It is all of them. It's all the magazine covers that David did, and then some extras that were themed with the Hellfire Gala. 21 books in total. Trade is 120. Virgin is 300. Trade and Virgin together is 350. So that's your best deal, and that gets you all 42 of them. Trade and Virgin. That gets you all the way caught up because the Hellfire Gala books are going on sale now. We've already released the Emma Frost 2023 book cover. It's on the website now, so you can go ahead and get started and have all of the Hellfire Gala, because this may be the last year for the Hellfire Gala, story-wise.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's going bad on Krakoa.
Okay.
So the Krakoan era may come to an end. So the Hellfire Gala as we know it, who knows what 2024 looks like. So, which is sad because we've liked it as a cover event.
They got to get the, you know how they are with getting their franchise in line with the movies, and we're getting close to X-Men being on the big screen.
Well, but it's like Darren and I have always talked about that the Krakoa, that era would be an easy jumping on point for the MCU. It would make sense. You could kind of have them off on their own.
It would, but it's not the school.
It's not school. It's not the traditional place. But you know what? Sometimes Kevin Feige likes to start stuff kind of in the middle of the story, kind of a thing, like Spider-Man. Yeah. So, and kind of just do their own thing. So there's no telling. And then finally, the last bundle we have right now, we have our Amazing Spider-Man bundle. So since the new volume of Spider-Man launched in 2022 when Spider-Man 1 came out. 21 in the current volume. We have done an exclusive for every issue up to, well, right now 29. We just launched this week. So we have 2 bundles. We have a trade bundle and a Virgin bundle for issues 1 to 24. Altogether, the trade is 125 and the Virgin is 300. Those are available on the website right now. So those are all the bundles that we have. That's what's going on here. We've got some good exclusives coming out this next week. I believe we have a X-23 Deadly Regenesis that Tyler Kirkham has done, which we haven't had a Tyler book in quite a while. I'm trying to think what the other exclusive I saw. We have a foil coming of a book that it's the dang it, I can't remember. I just looked at my phone. Anyway, all that to say, if you want to see what exclusives are coming out, there is the This Week at Unknown videos that you can catch on YouTube, where I recap all the books that we've launched the previous week and all the books that are going to be launching the next week. That is on our YouTube channel. Search for Unknown Comics on YouTube. And that's what's happening at Unknown. So now, let's get into what we're into. Tanner, what you been doing geeky this week?
We had a new episode of Reaper's Creepers drop this week.
Nice.
Talking about mermaids. You can find that anywhere your audio podcast service of choice.
I listened to a podcast where they put this tagline out: wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.
I like that. I like that a lot. this weekend I have another D&D session coming up, so I've been prepping for that.
Nice.
And I've got some. I can say this now that we're not live because they're probably not like no one's going to listen to it before the session's over.
Sure.
So
I won't even post this till Friday anyway.
Yeah. So we're going to this library that is like it's a combination library temple of the god of light and order.
Okay.
So they're going there. They have this manuscript. They're trying to find what's causing all these dark things to happen in the area, and this is written in a language that none of them can decipher. So they're going to the library.
Okay.
When they get there, I mean, of course they'll do all the stuff to figure out the text and all that, but they'll get to a part where there's going to be some treasure chests and an inscription on the floor that says, if you're worthy of the light, the treasure's free to take, basically.
Okay.
So I've got a pretty good mix of alignments in my party.
Good. Okay. How big is your party?
It's big. I couldn't say no to people, so I have 7 players.
Holy crap! And this is your first time DMing?
Yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine.
The nuts on you, man.
So, basically, since it's the temple of the god of light, only the good alignment are going to be able to open the chest. Anyone else that touches the chest, it's going to turn into a mimic.
That is hilarious. So you're just waiting to see who actually ponies up and decides to open it.
And I've got a crime lord that he just wants to steal and loot everything. He's probably going to be the first to go for it.
Yeah, that's kind of what you want, though, right?
Yeah, it should be.
So
fun.
now, if it turns into a mimic, is the treasure just gone?
You know, I haven't decided yet.
Okay,
it depends on how nice they are to me.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to face down those, and then I've also found a what I considered a pretty cool library themed monster. I'm just gonna have intellect devourers kind of running around the library.
Nice.
So
you could probably do some crazy things with mimics, period, in a library too. Like they're not necessarily treasure chests or whatever. They could be
anything.
They could be books. You know.
So there's another guy at work with me that he's a player in several groups.
Okay.
And we spitball just ridiculous ideas off of each other all the time. And so a mimic could be anything.
Yeah.
And we're like, what if we took him to a town and everything in the town's a mimic? They just start touching, because when you touch it is when it transforms.
Right.
So they start bumping into stuff and it tries to eat them. It'd be a lot of fun.
That would be hilarious. It's just this abandoned town in the middle of nowhere that, like, why would a town be here? And then, yeah, that would be hilarious until they touch the house and the house becomes a mimic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which we were looking at terrain for our Age of Fantasy campaign, and I remember stumbling on somebody that actually had a resin house.
I've seen it.
But then it was also like
the mimic version of
the house.
That's a printable scenery file.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, so I've been working on that. I printed all the monsters for this go around, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
And then I've been working real hard about printing elves and stuff for our Age of Fantasy.
Nice. You got all your dungeon terrain and everything.
Yeah.
All your walls and everything.
Yep.
Nice. Well, you been watching anything? Do you watch TV anymore?
I watch reruns. So what I'm wanting to watch, I'm still waiting for. So we've got Futurama coming up, I think, next month. New episodes of Futurama.
Really? What's it going to? Is it going to Hulu? Really? Okay.
And then
I didn't even know that.
We have The Righteous Gemstones on HBO. Starts up.
I never watched that. That's with Danny What's His Bucket and John Goodman and everybody.
Yep. It's really funny.
They're televangelists.
And then the weekend after that is What We Do in the Shadows.
Is it really?
Yep. 24.
Oh,
20
I'm excited
something.
now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's on my list. I watch that by myself. My wife doesn't watch that. So that's one for just me. Awesome. Well, let's see. What did I do this week? Olivia and I went and saw Across the Spider-Verse, and I really liked it. I will say, because I didn't watch Into the Spider-Verse in the theater. I didn't watch that till
we didn't either.
It came on home release. Netflix. It was a little hard for me to watch on a big screen. I I've never really had a lot of issues with like motion sickness or anything like that. But I think just because of the way the frame rate is, because they've got that very stylized frame rate and all the the color flashing, especially like, I don't think it's a spoiler because I think you see him in the trailer, but Spider-Punk's in it. Yeah. And he's got this effect about him that like things just kind of do this little warpy thing all the time. It was hard for me to watch at some points. Like I did, and I didn't end up getting queasy or anything. It's just like, it's like I was overstimulated.
Yeah. I can see that.
And so it was really hard for me to like follow the action and stuff. Man, I generally knew what was going on. Very good. It's not going to spoil a whole lot because you kind of Ben Reilly's in it. Because I know Ben Reilly's one of your favorite characters. Yeah. Do you know who's voicing him? Andy Samberg.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
in the first one, Hobo Pete was, I don't know the actor's name, but it's Nick Miller from New Girls.
Yeah. He's back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're all, not everybody's back. Gwen's back, of course, and Miles. Hobo Pete. Those are of the spiders that you meet in the first one. Those are the ones that you actually have, dialogue and that you see. Yeah, it was good. I'm definitely teeing up Beyond the Spider-Verse, the third movie. They're pretty much, it wouldn't surprise me if, much like other trilogies that have come out, the first movie is, are people going to like this? We're going to kind of put a bow on it a little bit just in case, but we really want it to move into a trilogy. And then, by the episode 2, cliffhanger, because the third movie is definitely happening, right? And that's kind of how it, it literally is just stopping to go in, pausing to go into the third movie. And it even talks, to be continued. It ends that way. So we enjoyed it. So television wise, it's been a while since we had a podcast, so I've caught up on a bunch of stuff. Ted Lasso, the season 3 finale is done. And as far as we know, Ted Lasso is done as a series. There is a chance that it may get spun off into other series with other characters, but Jason Sudeikis said Ted Lasso's story is done. Even if you're not a sports fan, it is such a good freaking show. It's hilarious. It has heart. It is just, I highly recommend it to anybody except children. It's got some language. And some suggestive stuff. But it's just, like, even if you're not a fan of soccer, even if you're not a fan of sports, I think it is, there are just, it is one of the most heartfelt shows that I've watched in a very long time. So I highly recommend it if you have Apple TV Plus. Go watch Ted Lasso. Let's see. I have not started Strange New Worlds yet. I meant to get, once I finish Picard, I meant to start on it so that way I'd be caught up by the time season 2 started, which it started this week. I'm going to have to kind of push that off for now because now that what we do in the shadows is coming. So there we go. And then my wife's been doing a rewatch on Criminal Minds, and I don't intend to ever watch it. But what happens is she starts watching it, and then I just kind of come in the room and I just start...
Yeah.
I just kind of fixate on it, and before you know it, I'm watching it. And I told her, because I finally finished Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay.
100%, because that's how I do. I have to find everything. And I wasn't going to do that when I first started playing it. I just wanted to get the story done so I can move into Jedi Survivor. But I didn't. I went up and just found all the things. Really good story. I was very surprised at how well it was voice acted, and just the actual story itself. It was really good. It's been out for a while, so I'm not going to spoil anything. You face Darth Vader at the very end,
right?
Okay, and you don't really fight him like you do the other bosses, because it's in Darth Vader. You're not going to win. and you can't kill him because he's Darth Vader.
Right.
You know, he's a canon character. They do a really good job of you being freaking scared of him, though. Like, it is. Did you ever play Resident Evil 2?
Bits and pieces.
It kind of felt like when Nemesis would find you.
Okay.
Or Mr. X or whatever it was, you know, that he wasn't really stalking you that way, but like it's one of those things that, you know, he'd pop up and you'd be like, ah, and run, you know, because that's all you can do is try to like not get killed by him.
Yeah.
And it kind of has this climactic you're running from Vader kind of end scene or whatever. But Lucasfilm has done a really good job since Rebels and Rogue One of making Darth Vader be scary again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because for the longest time he wasn't anymore.
Right.
You know, like I think he was intimidating in A New Hope because he was brand new, and then he kind of lost it. You know, you see his kind of redemption arc, and then he kind of becomes just this popular character. And it wasn't until, you know, my daughter argues with me. She says in Rebels he was scary. It didn't really hit for me until Rogue One.
That end scene was terrifying.
Yeah, that he's evil, and he's scary. There and like that one scene in Obi-Wan. Did you watch the Obi-Wan series last year?
No, I haven't watched Obi-Wan.
It's not my favorite. It's still good. Like it got a lot of crap, but I thought it was still good. You know, there's scenes with him in it that he's proper, you know, horror movie level. So it did a good job of doing that. Anyway, I'd be wanting to try to finish playing Fallen Order, but I would get sucked into watching Criminal Minds, which this show I've probably watched every episode already, you know, over the years of Crystal catching reruns or whatever, but now she's wanting to kind of binge watch through it. I told her, I was like, you're only allowed to watch Criminal Minds when I'm like occupied doing something. Like if I'm done, you have to turn it off. She's like, no. And we argued and I probably lost. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much. So I actually finally purchased Spider-Man today. And so I'm probably going to start playing that. I was going to go straight into Jedi Survivor once I got done with Fallen Order, but I hear the PC version is still having some technical issues. Yeah. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer for them to kind of get all that done. Mm-hmm. Plus, I've been wanting to play the Spider-Man game for a long time anyway. And it's
like a palette refresher.
Yeah. Plus, it really shows off my new hardware. Because that game is so freaking beautiful and uses like all the new tech and stuff, and I just really want to see it. It is, and plus it's been a while since I've played a Spider-Man game. The last Spider-Man game I had played was Spider-Man 2 for
PS2
for Xbox.
Okay,
yeah, for the original Xbox.
Game. It plays a lot like that game.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, where you're swinging all over New York and stuff. Only this is a much prettier New York. I did notice. Because I was there in October, so I'm swinging through Midtown, and I was like, oh, it's Madison Square Garden, and it looks for the most part right. And you can see the Empire State Building and everything, but like the Javits Center where New York Comic Con isn't actually in the game. It's like just random buildings and stuff like that.
Oh,
so it's not like map accurate.
Well, no, because the Avenger Tower is in the game also.
That's true, and Oscorp and all. I mean, it has to have its own, bent to it. But like other like landmarks and stuff that are in New York, I mean, that's a recent landmark, right? They actually probably dozed a bunch of buildings to make that thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was funny. So getting started on that, I'm playing on like super easy mode because I don't.
That's how I usually play games. I just want to get through the story.
Yeah, or I just want to swing around and. Dope around. The swinging in the game it's
different.
There's a lot to it, and doing all the like the whip pulls and stuff like that. So anyway, having fun with it. So good stuff. All right. So we're gonna move into tabletop gaming for our main topic tonight, because over the past couple of weeks, Warhammer 40K 10th edition has come out.
Well, we're in the middle of pre-order.
So the thing is, the edition has come out. They've released PDFs, right?
Yeah.
So we are in the midst of 10th edition. It's released. So the core rules are out. The indexes or indices, they're both correct, are out. We have not got any physical copies of the rulebook or the Leviathan box set. So we're just going to kind of talk about the 10th edition launch, and I think we're gonna go ahead and start by talking about the Leviathan box set. Now, it's important to know that I noticed that I said box set. This is not a starter set.
No, I don't think they've done a true starter set since 8th edition.
Yeah. Now, what will be starter sets are going to be these combat patrols.
Yeah.
Once they drop, and that's what they're kind of gearing to be your entry point into.
I do like the combat patrol better than the old start collecting boxes.
Yeah,
because there's at least there's allegedly balanced to each other. So it's
correct.
like when War Machine was the main game to be played in town. You could just pick up a battle box and play it against another battle box.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that with the start collecting boxes.
Sure.
You know, it was more about getting rid of sprues that weren't popular on their own.
Yeah.
It
was awful. It was clearing stuff out, which they have said that in the combat patrol boxes, the data cards for certain units may be different than what they actually are in the actual proper rules. So to achieve that balance between combat patrol, certain units may get tweaked just in combat patrol, but these data cards are only supposed to be used when playing another combat patrol box, right? And of course, these combat patrols are going to be very heavily themed. They are not modular. You don't build a combat patrol. Like there are no rules to build a combat. You basically grab a box, put it together. That's what you play, and you play them against other combat patrols. I think it's great for an entry point, right? Because then you can take all those models, move them into normal 40K. You know, you're not meant to be playing combat patrol forever.
No.
Right? That eventually you're going to move into. And then I don't know where boarding patrols kind of fit and all that. I don't know if they're going to follow the same kind of setup. I know there's small model count like combat patrol.
Boarding patrol you almost got to think of it as its own side game.
Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they stop producing Kill Team for boarding patrol because it's the same sort of feel without having a completely separate set of rules.
Yeah.
You're still using core 40K rules, but it's the same model count. You're playing in the more corridor type.
But yeah, I was going to say boarding patrol is more like Zone Mortalis where you're playing inside narrow corridors and stuff like that. Whereas Kill Team, you're still not playing in corridors. You're still playing on an open map.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, let's be honest, having not played the new edition of Kill Team, the Kill Team list, from what I've told, like they pretty much have one build.
Yes.
And
that's the thing I've always felt about Kill Team is why am I going to learn these rules for these models that I already have for a different game that already has its own rules?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so far different than normal 40K that maybe that's what, they're just going to kind of move everything to combat patrol, and then once you're done with that, you're into the main game.
Yeah.
So the Leviathan box set is what's it retail for?
US, I think it's $250.
$250. And it's pretty good size Space Marine and Tyranid armies. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, there's no points yet, so we don't know how many points these really are. But
it's a lot of miniatures.
50 miniatures around. I think it's 25 per side. Something like that.
Something like that.
And that's really what they are. It's a double army box.
And that's what they did with Ninth.
With Death Guard. It
was the Indominus box,
that's
and
right.
it was Space Marines and Necrons. That's when Necrons got their range refresh.
That's right.
And it was this
8th edition was Death Guard.
Yes, and so that 8th edition was the Dark Imperium box, and that was the last starter 2-player box we had. Now it's all about it's I guess more exclusive because it's a limited release.
Yeah.
Dark Imperium, you could have bought Dark Imperium throughout the entirety of 8th edition.
Yeah, it was constantly being restocked and stuff like that. The box set release went for pre-order
Saturday, the 10th was.
Yes. Yeah. Saturday was the 10th. And the web store is already out of stock. They are now pushing people to friendly local game stores, which is great. Awesome that they're pushing people to friendly local game stores.
They don't have any either.
Except that not every friendly local game store actually got a lot. We actually got allocated 3 boxes, which was not a lot because we have way more players than that wanted them. And so they were telling us to push people to the web store. Well, now the web store's sold out, so they're pushing people to the FLGS where we don't have any.
The same stuff happened in 9th. It happens every time there's a 40K release. It doesn't so much happen with Sigmar because not as many people care.
Yeah.
And also there's a lot of scalpers with 40K. People are buying boxes and putting them on eBay before.
Especially since they're limited edition like this, and they're not going to be restocked and.
I mean, it's a big problem. The really fancy leather bound books that you can get of Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
They sell out in minutes, and then you can find them on eBay for about a 300% markup.
Yeesh.
But yeah, so it would not surprise me if in about a month they say we're putting it up again for made to order.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean, that's what they did with 9th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want a box, you're going to be able to get a box at some point.
If you want an Indominus box, we have them in comics. They're still sitting in the back.
Yeah.
We're still sitting in Indominus boxes. So, yeah. Eventually, I don't know. And they could be holding on to stock to keep it off the web store for a little bit. There's no telling.
Wait a few months and you're going to get the multi-part kits for these anyway.
Yeah.
Because these are all going to be snap fit, one pose, one loadout.
Yeah.
Especially for Terminators, you probably are going to want a cooler loadout than a combi bolter and a power fist.
Yeah. Yeah. Underhammer Storm Shield. Come on. Let's go.
So, yeah, wait a few months. You'll get the multi-part kit for that.
So with all this, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, at the time of this recording, we got the Core Rules PDF. And it's a pretty substantial PDF. The core rules clock in at 60 pages long. So that is, introduction, the core concepts, how the battle round works, how data sheets work, all your stratagems, strategic reserves, how terrain works, how you actually put your army together, which there are army rules. As of right now, there is no army balancing mechanic. So the indexes that have come out, which we'll talk about in a minute, have no kind of, there's no, not having points is one thing. That's not uncommon. Match play where they actually have balancing points for match play, that generally has come later. It came later for Sigmar, came later for 8th edition, 9th edition, all of that. But they still had actually Sigmar didn't initially.
The very first edition, there was no point. That was the gimmick of it.
You counted wounds.
You weren't supposed to do that. It was I'm going to pick some models, you're going to pick some models, and we're going to play.
Yeah.
The wounds thing was a house rule.
Yeah. And that's kind of where they have everybody right now. There's no power system.
They completely did away with power levels. It's going to be only points now.
Yeah. Or just play what you want, kind of a thing. And then there are missions at the end, which I was kind of surprised I think there were more missions in there than I thought there were going to. Typically it's only the basic pitch battle that's ever in the core rules, and then all the additional missions kind of make it in the big rule book. But there are, oh no, never mind, I lied. There's only 2 missions. There's only 1 mission, the only war. So never mind, I lied. But other than that, the entire rule set is free, which, is how it should be.
Glad they're finally catching on to what everyone else is doing.
Because 8th edition and 9th edition, they had your core rules, but then there were
a 1-page sheet of the base mechanics.
But then all your advanced rules and stuff were kind of tacked on in the big rule book. Not this time. They went ahead and did the full core rules. Now, like I said, missions and stuff, mission variety.
Also in 8th and 9th, most of your advanced rules were in your codex anyway.
Yeah. But like missions and stuff, the missions were kind of saved for like campaign books and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so the core
chapter approved.
The core book will have at least 6 missions because you roll on a d6 to choose which one. Yeah. And then, like you said, there will be
the paid core.
Yes, the paid core rulebook. And then, of course, the chapter approved will have its own set of missions, and that's what the tournaments for that year will run off of.
Yeah.
And then at some point, they'll do a narrative campaign that will have missions in it.
Yeah. So they used to. So with 8th and 9th, they always had 3 tiers. They had, they pretty much had your narrative play tier, your match play tier, and then whatever they called their casual play tier. I can't remember what that was called, where it was just their kitchen table tier.
Yeah.
That kitchen table tier seems to kind of just not really exist.
It's kind of gone away. Open play, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah, open play is what it's called. I think that's pretty well gone away. That you just basically kind of make the rules for your own open play, is what it seems like.
The people that play casually, they play the narrative.
Yeah, yeah. Which you played Crusade a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, me and Stetson have played a decent amount of Crusade.
What did you think of 9th edition's Crusade?
I thought it was a lot of fun. It's a lot like our
Age
of Fantasy campaign. Yeah. Your units get experience. They can you can get boons. You can get hindrances.
Yeah,
I mean it's a lot of fun.
And they have talked that like Crusade is coming back for 10th ed, right? Have they said that?
The only thing I know for sure that is coming is the boarding actions. That's the only 9th edition thing that I know for a fact is going to be in 10th.
But as far as narrative play, they haven't really elaborated on.
I don't know on
what's happening with it.
I hope so. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Which, like I said, more ways to play the game is always better.
Mm-hmm.
It just more value out of your purchase, right? So going through here, Tanner, because I've skimmed the rules, and of course, I've only ever skimmed the rules. I have not played Warhammer 40K since 2nd edition. Okay, we're on 10th. I'm 8th editions behind. However, I have stocked it remotely, right? I've always kind of had a pulse on what's going on with it because it's always very interesting. But I never wanted enough to pull the trigger to actually start playing again because it's just it's a life commitment.
Yeah.
So summarize what the biggest changes from 9th to 10th are.
I've mostly only skimmed also.
Yeah.
The biggest ones that I've for sure seen is characters going back into units.
Yeah.
Like, I believe 7th was the last edition that it was like that. And I don't think it's every character either. I think some can still be on their own, others you attach to units.
Right. So I looked at the Harlequin index today. So like the troop master can join a troop. Okay. So it was very specific as to what unit they could actually go into as well. Couldn't just join any, which, I mean, Harlequins don't have many different units anyway.
And then don't quote me on this, but I think some of the different phases of the turn have been reworked.
Yeah, so the phases are now command phase, movement phase, shooting phase, charge phase, fight phase.
So basically they got rid of the psychic phase. It's now going to be looped into whatever phase that particular power is associated with, I believe.
So it can happen in any phase, but it's power specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe if it's not that, then it's part of the command phase, like it is in Sigmar. And
Battle Shock is now not its own phase; it's part of the command phase. I know that's because it came at the end.
It was its own phase at the very end of the turn.
Let's see here. Let's look up when Psychic happens. Yeah, not a lot about psychic abilities in here, so I'm assuming that stuff's going to show up in codices and on data cards.
Don't quote me, but I think it's associated with the power. So if it's a smite would be kind of a ranged attack. I think that would happen during the shooting phase. Whereas if it's like a buff aura, you would do it in the command phase.
Gotcha. Which makes sense. I mean, is this the first time that Psychic hasn't had its own phase?
Since I've played, it is.
Yeah, which you started playing, what, 6?
7.
7. So one big thing that, of course, I've noticed is, one, the unit profile has changed considerably. because everything has now moved to data sheets. So if you're familiar with Sigmar at all, 40K is
Battle scrolls.
The data sheets are battle scrolls. The advantage to this is what they've done is they've pulled a lot of stats that were on the unit profile, and now there are separate weapon profiles. And so movement, toughness, save wounds, leadership are still part of the unit profile. They've added another unit profile that is objective control, which is
that'll be a good thing.
Yes. So now they can actually, because if you ever hear like game designers, they talk about knobs, right? Knobs that they can tweak, right? And the more knobs you can tweak, the better, because you can kind of change balance. You can make different aspects of the game feel differently. Objective control was one of those that
it didn't work very well.
It had, since it was never an actual stat on a unit, like they had to be these broad kind of rules that stretch across.
And it in the games I played, it didn't come up very often. It was usually someone obviously controlled it or not. But when you're playing an army like Knights, and then the whole army
you may have 3 models on the table,
and the rule stated whoever had the most models on the objective controlled it. Well, that Knight's a lot more powerful than a bunch of grots, but you can put a lot more grots on the table.
Yeah, and to wit, you could have like a tactical squad. What are they? Intercessors?
Yeah.
Just call them Tech Marines, I swear.
Which
I noticed the Space Marine indexes still had Primaris Intercessor Squad and had Tactical Squad still.
Yeah, because they're different physical models.
Yes.
So that they are different in that sense, but I believe in the keywords, the Primaris keyword is no longer a thing.
Right. So to that, so you have your tactical squad or whatever, and they're all, objective control 1, but you may have a unit that is maybe the same base size as a Marine, a Space Marine, but they're not meant to hold objectives, right? They're a beast of some sort. They're stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
You can just make them OC0, and now they are literally, their purpose on the battlefield is not objective control.
Like they could only control it if they were the only thing on it.
Right.
Deal.
Kind of a thing. So like I said, that's always good to have, like I said, those extra knobs to tweak. So attacks, weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, armor penetration, damage, all of that has now moved into weapons profiles, which do still show up on the data sheet with the unit profile. The main difference is now it is on a per weapon basis. And what they can do, more knobs they can tweak, is, a las gun on an Imperial Guardsman can actually have a different weapon profile than a las gun on an orc.
Right.
They can tweak those separately. It's not like an across the board that all las guns do have this strength, have this damage, have this AP.
And it also takes away some of the looking back and forth between the different charts when you'd have weapons like like thunder hammers that it was a -1 to your hit.
Yeah.
Well, that's built into the weapon now.
Right. Yeah, because now you can have different weapons that your weapon skill is different based on what weapon you take. So now there's that knob that they can tweak. They can make the choice between, well, he's going to hit easier if he carries this sword, or maybe he hits harder if he takes this one.
I think anytime you can build a dice goal into a stat, as opposed to using a modifier, is better.
Oh yeah,
the less modifiers you have to deal with, the better.
Yeah, it simplifies the lookup. I mean, Tanner, you never played 2nd edition. You never played, and I don't know if 7th edition had this. There was a table you had to look at when you did an attack. That was you looked at the strength of the weapon, you looked at the toughness of the unit, and you had to look at the matrix to see where they crossed, and that was your 2-hit roll. That was normal for us back in 1990, whatever that was. Games can't do that now. Like BattleTech can get away with it right now because it's kind of having a resurgence, but that's there's a nostalgia built to that.
Yeah.
And that's unique to that game. That other games you just can't get away with it, right? And I think that kind of really started. I think War Machine kind of started that having stuff on a card in front of you, not a lot of lookup, flipping through the book, makes your game more enticing, right? Having super deep, complicated rules might have worked for a subset of miniatures gamers, but I think
as it gains mainstream popularity, that's not
you can't do that. Yeah, that it just becomes and plus, less lookup, faster games go, more games you can play. Right. In your limited abilities. So with that, a lot of stratagems and stuff are now on the data sheet with the unit, which we're not seeing a lot of that yet. We do have the generic stratagems that kind of came in, which it actually came with 11 in this core book that are available to anybody, and they kind of grouped them as to when they can happen. Either player, your turn, opponent's turn, and more stratagems to come when codexes release.
I did notice some of the free indexes had a couple stratagems in them
attached to the unit, which that's what they said that they would.
No, like the indexes have a basic
that's
army
right.
rule.
That's right.
And like you have your basic battalion. I forget what it's called.
So looking at Eldari right now, the battle host, they have 6 of their own. Which don't fit on one page.
Yeah, I was real surprised by that. When they did the indexes at the start of 8th, it was just the data sheets. That was it.
Yeah. So now they have their army rules. They have their detachment rules, which, of course, these indexes have only one detachment in them anyway.
Right.
It looks like. Then so Eldari actually had enhancements. So I don't know if that was unique to Eldari, or did other indexes have these enhancements?
I'm not sure. I only looked at the Death Guard one.
Anyway.
Yeah, Death Guard have enhancements.
Okay. So those are things that you can kind of layer on top. Other than that, just to talk about the indexes, they're okay. Kind of bland. So for me personally, the kind of the one army that I've kind of stocked, that if I was going to get back into playing, because I used to play Dark Angels back in the day, but really in recent years, Eldari Harlequins have, well, now they're Eldari Harlequins because they're back in the main codex again.
Yeah.
They started in the main codex, they broke off, became their own army, now they're back in the main codex again. But then there's a special rule to where they can also go into a Drakari army.
Okay.
Even though they're Eldari, they can go into a Drakari army, a dark Eldar. I gotta stop saying Eldari. They're just freaking Eldar. They're just like all of what make Harlequins unique is just gone. Like they have no movement rule whatsoever. Like, so the big thing with Harlequins is they had their flip belts, right? So they could retreat and they could fall back and attack at the same turn.
Yeah, they're not getting any of that special stuff until their book comes out.
Yeah, and which is, I mean, I get it. They
gotta sell those books.
They gotta sell the codexes. I get it, but that's a very core part of what Harlequins are, is their mobility, and they have none of it. So it's like, so they're just going to be kind of these kind of blah troops that are going to kind of sit in Eldari armies as just...
Well, like Death Guard, they don't have disgustingly resilient. There's no special Nurgle save or anything yet.
So, like, I guess what it is they can't go through all the armies and kind of extract their specialness yet for this new rule set, right? Because it takes so much balance, and I get it.
I'm sure all those rules are ready. From what I understand, like, they're prepping stuff for release 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're all ready. They just, if they give you them free in the index, you're not going to buy a codex.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, because where's their codex roadmap? Let's see here. 10th edition Codex roadmap. Let's see what their release schedule looks like here. Hey, Reddit's back. Okay, so summer 2023. Here's what we're getting. We're getting Leviathan, core book, the Tyrannic War Crusade. So we do know Crusade's part of it. The chapter approved mission deck.
Okay.
So maybe chapter approved's not a book anymore. I don't know. And then index cards. Not like go to Staples and buy index cards,
right.
But I'm assuming printed version, hard printed versions of these. Great. Okay, this fall we're getting Tyranids and Space Marines Codex. Then in the winter, we're getting Adeptus Mechanicus, Necrons, and then spring of 24, Dark Angels, which...
Now they're rebranching the Space Marines back into their own because they did the same thing. They got them all into one book with your supplement, and now they're gonna.
It's like why didn't you just leave Harlequins in their own book? You're doing it with everybody else. So Dark Angels, Orcs, Adeptus Custodes, Tau, and Chaos. No Eldar, no Drakari.
Was all that stuff slated for next summer?
Next spring. Spring 24. And that's their next year. So with that means up until next spring, are there really just going to be pretty much 4 tournament viable armies? Because you got to think, none of these index armies are going to hold a candle to a Codex army.
No, and even in 9th, when you were using 8th edition Codex, the 8th ones didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that really frustrates me about how fast they release their editions.
Yeah.
World Eaters just came out, like, they've only been an army for, I think, 4 months.
And now they're not getting a Codex until spring of 24.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, and we got, which Lionel Johnson got his index, but he's going to get revamped before the Dark Angels Codex comes out in spring of 24. Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes no sense. Like, I don't. So if you're running a competitive tournament, are you playing 9th edition then?
I've seen one that is on the day 10th officially comes out, which is next Saturday, week from.
And they're just going to play index armies.
Yeah, they're doing it 10th edition rules.
Yeah, but like I said, the minute Tyranids Codex and Space Marine Codexes drop, well, that's what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. You're going to see those 2 armies, which...
And the power creep was exceptionally bad in 9th.
Yeah.
It was all meta chasers. Whichever the new book was, that was the one that was winning.
Yeah. And
then a month later, once that they were like, oh, it's too powerful, we're going to release an FAQ and nerf it.
Yeah.
Which was also really frustrating. Everyone would go out and buy these models to meta chase, and then they'd nerf it a month later.
So, I mean, I guess you just, if you're stuck with an index army, play narrative.
Narrative's more fun anyway.
I mean, don't get lost in competitive, which I'm not. I mean, I'm not a competitive gamer anymore either. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be. It seems like the competitive realm is just going to be very bland for a while, or it's going to be very repetitive. Let's say that.
Yeah.
You're just going to have, vanilla Marines and bugs at pretty much every tournament until, like I said, until Necrons and Adeptus Mechanicus come in, which, okay, I probably would have swapped, like, maybe Adeptus Mechanicus with Chaos in the winter.
That's another thing that they've done really weird for the past 3 editions. It's they put out some really popular armies really late in the edition.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, Custodes. Like that. Those are to me, they're kind of niche. Like, how are you not going to have Eldar?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased that Eldar should be more popular. I mean, Eldar dominated 2nd edition. Of course, we didn't have Tau either, so they were the shooty army, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Will I play it? Probably not.
I'll play it. I don't know how many games I'll actually get in.
Yeah.
I was before we started recording, I was telling you I was planning on getting a Leviathan box, but then I got to thinking, well, I played as many 40K games in the past 2 years as I've played Age of Fantasy games in the past like 2 months.
Yeah. Oh, here's some weirdness. Okay, so like I said, I've kind of zeroed in on Harlequins right now. So the Troop Master. Okay, so he has 2 different melee, which one thing they did do, and I don't know if it's going to stay this way. I really hope it doesn't, because this is very bland and boring. So I don't know how familiar you were with Harlequins, but there were 4 different
Wood Elves in space.
They are Wood Elves in space. They're War Dancers in space as well. There are 4 different melee weapons they could choose from.
Okay.
Blade, Kiss, Caress, and Embrace. And they all had kind of their different things. Well, now there are blades and then Harlequin's special weapon.
That's
like,
funny.
Okay, I get that you're consolidating.
We're not even going to bother to name it.
Like, call it Harlequin's Kiss or something, or Harlequin's Embrace or Caress or whatever. Give it one of the names, but Harlequin's special weapon. Anyway, that's dumb to start with. But they were always upgrades. The Troop Master starts with his blade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Troop Master's blade. So here's the Troop Master's blade. 6 attacks, 2 up weapon skill, strength 4, AP -2, damage 1.
Okay.
Now, one Troop Master, I believe. Let's see here. This Troop Master's blade can be replaced by 1 Harlequin special weapon. Okay, here's the stat line on this Harlequin special weapon that you're going to upgrade to. Attack 5, 1 less attack. 2 up weapon skill, same. 4 strength, same. -1 AP, so that's technically less AP. I know we're working a negative. Damage 1. Why the hell would you upgrade to that? That is across the board worse than which there's no points. Like, it wouldn't change anything, but why include it? Like, why would you even put that on the data sheet?
I don't know. Like, it should be the other way around, for one.
Yeah.
And the only reason I can think of is if you're trying to save points.
Well, but here's the thing. These cards, there is no points.
Yeah.
So it just says it can be replaced. Why are, like I understand, like, naming options and upgrades if up to so many models can get this, up to so many models can get this. I get that if you're limited, but this is one model that you can do this. Well, if you can do it, even if it's the better or worse option, why wouldn't it just have that option? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's some kind of, like, you kind of look through these indexes and just wonder if they just kind of phone some stuff in.
I understand the point of upgrades for one model when we get to the point system. The point system.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to be generally worse as an upgrade, that was weird. And now this very well could be eroded later. It'd be like, oh, we forgot to, we flipped their APs around. It should have less attacks, but it have more AP.
Yeah, that's basically, that was like switching your power sword for a generic melee weapon.
Right, and that I would understand, but as it is, now he does have a 4-up invuln too. Nice. And I don't remember that Harlequins had invulns previously. I can't remember.
Never played against them or anything.
So, but they have them now. Whatever. Anywho, that's 10th edition. Like I said, it is out. 10th edition exists. Is it really out, though, until the codexes come out? Yeah, maybe not. Because really, you won't really see what 10th edition is until codexes start dropping.
At the very least, chapter approved.
Yeah.
When we get points.
Yeah. Which that usually comes within the first year, towards the end of the first year? Or have they dropped a chapter approved pretty early on?
It traditionally comes out in December.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll change that.
Well, like I said, the roadmap has mission cards.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't. Is that replacing chapter approved the book? Who knows? And then maybe the match play points just become a free PDF.
That would be nice. They weren't going to do that. They want the points. They want you to use their army builder.
Yeah.
That is a paid subscription.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing. Like, they've come a long way with these core rules. I'll give them that. Just make all rules free.
And their army builder is... There's free army builders that are better.
Your money comes from models. Mm-hmm. Stop printing books. Print lore books. That's all you need.
I read a bunch of Black Library, you know.
Just, you already have a publishing that all you do is publish just books, right? People will buy lore books. Like, and the people that care will buy them. The people that don't care will just buy your models and play the game. It's exactly what the Corvus Belli did with Infinity. Mm-hmm. All of their rules and their builder are free online. If you want the lore, then you do buy their rule book, but the lore is a separate book in the two of them. But,
right.
They tell you from the get-go, this core book's going to get outdated. And it actually just happened. Like, they released version 2 of the rule book, and I don't know that they're making another print version, you know? So you're buying that just to have a physical copy in your hand that you're never going to use because it's already outdated.
Right.
Well,
especially how fast the codex get outdated. Those are $40 books.
Yeah.
And they're good for about a month before they get FAQ'd.
Yeah. And they're doing digital codexes again, right? Because they stopped doing digital codexes for a while, didn't they? Or something?
So 8th edition...
Because they got tired of people pirating them or something?
The 8th edition ones were weird. It was literally just a PDF.
Yeah.
The 9th edition ones, it doesn't work so much like a PDF as it gives you access to the rules in the army builder.
Yeah.
It's more of just an access key than anything.
Yeah. But how do you...
Like, you don't
Can you get the fluff digital?
Not that I'm aware of, because you can't even download a digital codec. It's a code in the physical one that you enter in the army builder, and it gives you access to those rules.
Again, like, just release it all for free. People are going to find that information out anyway. Like, it's going to end up going on Battlescribe anyhow. All you're doing is you're fighting something you don't need to fight.
Which, I mean, they fight overly hard for their IPs.
Yeah, they do. I mean, all these big companies do, but like, is it worth? Here's the thing: what's the investment cost of having to fight this, right? And what are you leaving on the table and losing because you're charging for that?
Well, and your fan base, they're more interested in the content than the company.
Yeah.
So if you're out there fighting fan content, you're going to alienate your fan base.
Yeah. Yep. That's the way I see it. I don't see the point in it anymore. Everybody else has gone to free online rules, free builders. Corvus Belli's done it. Privateer Press has done it. Well, Privateer Press, no, the new app, everything's...
The new app is. The old app was free and you got some content for free, but you had to buy the rest of the army.
But they were like $2 an army. Right. It was nothing. You can still buy the entire game's worth of rules for like the price of one codex. Yeah. And then they would be digitally updated and all this stuff. There's no reason like that they shouldn't do that anymore. I would say, you know, of big tabletop miniatures games right now, you pretty much have the two main GW games. War Machine might be having a comeback right now. We don't really know what that's like. Crisis Protocol. Okay. And here's another way that I think would make sense to do it. Pack your unit rules with the freaking model kits. That's what Crisis Protocol does. All your cards and all your rules are with the model.
Now, they do have rules in the instruction booklet, but who knows how good they are good for, because they FAQ things so often. And also, I think the rules are only for, how a lot of model kits can build two different units. A lot of times the rules are only for the one that's pictured on the cover of the box.
Yeah. I don't know. Like Battletech, you still have to buy the rules, but they have enough getting started sets that you can pretty much get everything you need, off that. But again, that's also BattleTech is another one of those pre-1990s miniature war games that they're just antiquated, right?
Yeah.
And GW is the same type of company. It's just they're still popular, and so they're kind of being drugged, kicking and screaming into the 21st century, and they're unfortunately they're still not really competing with anybody. They are still the 100-pound juggernaut that they are.
It's honestly, I think that's just because their sculpts are exponentially better than most other companies.
Oh yeah, and their model quality and the quality of their books. Like nobody is questioning. Like codexes are fun books to have. They look good. Their graphic design is well done. Color, their art, like all of that's pluses, but not everybody cares about that. And
right,
when most of your profit is in those plastic models, do what you can to get those models to move.
Right.
And if and here's the thing is knowing what a unit does will inform purchases too, right? If you don't, I mean, I'm sure some people do buy models just because they look cool. Most people are like, oh, well, what units do I want to take? Okay, I need to go buy these models for this army.
I don't want to sink a bunch of money into this unit that will do nothing for me.
Unless you're just mainly just a hobbyist and you're going to have them anyway. And, anyway. So, all right. Well, 10th edition. Sure. Yeah. Lots of pluses, still some negatives. But I think generally, I mean, again, time will tell, what 10th edition is going to shape up like, because we had this discussion probably when 8th edition came out. Like, oh, these are all good changes, and 8th edition kind of, they all kind of just run their course.
8th was my favorite. I didn't really like 9th.
Yeah.
I missed the Maelstrom of War missions where you like randomly drew cards and that's what you had to accomplish on that turn.
Yeah.
It was for someone who's not playing competitively against players who are a lot better than me, it was a kind of a leveling factor.
Yeah. I'd love to see them, of course, we're biased because we've been doing this Age of Fantasy campaign, and we very well could pivot to like Grimdark Future, which is their 40K version of it, and do stuff with that. But I'd love to see them do a proper skirmish level game inside of the normal 10th edition rule set, right?
Yeah.
That's not Kill Team. Kill Team is a skirmish game, but that's not Warhammer.
It's not. And
it's set in the Warhammer universe, but it is its own.
It's almost like playing a Fantasy Flight game with Warhammer models.
Yeah. What got me about Kill Team is the illusion of building your own kill team.
Yeah, when there's not enough options to really build. You get what they gave you, and that's it.
Yeah, and it pretty much really only had one. I mean, there were some knobs you could tweak, but for the most part, every kill team was, if you both were dropping the same kill team, you probably had the exact same, close to the exact same list.
Yeah.
And so the variety was you played multiple kill teams, right? That's where
it's like they were experimenting with the rules to see if it took, like we were talking about with the movies in the first of a trilogy. It's like they were playing with kill teams.
Yeah.
But it hasn't done well enough for them to like really invest in it.
Yeah. Which this version is their third go at a proper kill team version. I think right. I can't remember.
I mean, if anything, open up Necromunda to allow more 40K factions.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, that's kind of what the previous edition of Kill Team was.
Yeah.
Prior to that, before they kind of branched off to be so different. But anywho, Old World's coming. So there's that.
Eventually. I think it'll be next year.
Yeah.
They usually do one of their flagship games one year, then the next year is going to be one of the more specialty games, and then a flagship game. So we'll probably get Old World and then Sigmar in the next 2 years.
Do you think Horus Heresy ever gets updated to something that looks more like 10th edition? Rule set wise?
They had a new rule set come out last year.
Oh, did they? That's
with the new box and everything.
and its rule set is still kind of.
I think it's still its own thing.
Yeah.
I think that's Horse Heresy is for. It's the same as like BattleTech. It's for the nostalgia of the really complicated old 40K.
Yeah.
But they're moving a lot of their Forge World stuff to Games Workshop in plastic. A lot of the Forge World tanks, a lot of the knights are going to be moving from resin to plastic. So, I mean, that's one thing that's going to be cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, then that makes sense. They need to bring Epic back.
There's rumors of that, and
Yeah.
it's still going to be set in Horse Heresy.
That would actually that makes a lot more sense. I think that would be really cool to play. Epic level Heresy battles. So yeah. So that's our thoughts on 10th edition. So yeah. Probably no podcast next week. Because I'll be out. And but so we may be back in 2 weeks with another podcast, and we promise it won't be tabletop gaming focused. I think we've been in this world a little bit.
I like tabletop gaming.
I know, I know, but not everybody that listens to us are tabletop gamers. So we'll branch it out with something else. Hopefully, my goal is to get all 4 of us on one freaking podcast. It hasn't happened yet. It was supposed to happen in May before all the cons started again.
Yeah,
that never happened. So anyway, but thank you for joining us. If you enjoy our podcast, please rate us, comment, give us a review on whatever podcast platform. If you're listening to us on YouTube, comment, like, subscribe. We also have other great content on YouTube. All of our exclusive reveals, our weekly news rundown, that's This Week in Unknown, and then of course we also have our top 5 pre-order videos on our YouTube channel that you can check out there. Tanner, thank you for joining me, and everyone, thank you for listening to us. This has been another Unknown Comics podcast.